Hello and welcome to Tech Talk with me, Pranjal Sharma. Today I'll be in conversation with Johnny C. Taylor. He's the president and CEO of SHRM, the world's largest HR body based in Washington, D.C. Thank you for being with us today.
I'm very happy to be here with you in New Delhi.
Johnny, SHRM, I want you to describe some of what SHRM has been doing. It's a 75-year-old body and 20 years in India.
Yes.
But how would you describe it to people? Because you do such a wide range of activities that people would wonder that, talent management itself is becoming complex. But how does SHRM lead the way?
Right. So probably three buckets. We began as a group of HR people working on HR professional issues. So HR talking to HR. And that was probably for the first 50 or 60 years of our now 76 years in existence. And then industry started saying it's not enough for HR people to be great at HR. We'd like you to talk broadly about talent, so to all of our employees. So we began on this journey of really focusing on maximizing human resources, period, no matter what they are, whether in HR, finance, legal, marketing, et cetera. And then finally, in the last 7 to 8 years, big focus on leadership. Because at some point, people work for people. Not even organizations. They receive a paycheck from the organization, but they work for people managers. So a lot of work on leadership and management development. Those are our three big buckets.
What I find fascinating, and you've been talking about AI and HI together,
yes,
artificial intelligence and human intelligence. And I think that was very brilliant because you brought two very critical pillars of our life, which is talent and technology together.
Yes.
How do you see the relationship evolving? You've spoken a lot about it. It's a tenuous relationship, it is complementing, but it is also competing.
Hands down.
So how do you see that evolving?
Well, so it's interesting, this math that we came up with. I'm sitting at a conference at Arizona State University. I remember vividly, April of 2023. Now remember, and people feel as if AI has been around forever, but we were introduced to ChatGPT November 30th of 2022. So it's actually a fairly new phenomenon, like it's less than 3 years old. Fast forward, I'm at this event at Arizona State University, and I'm there, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, this technology is going to destroy us. It's going to take away human beings' ability to work. And I said, guys, it's not AI times HI, which could equal zero. This is very much AI, artificial intelligence, plus human intelligence will equal the new ROI. And so it really transformed the way. So we're not competing directly. We're going to complement each other. That being said, there's a reality. That is, the more that we embrace technology, the more that AI proves what it can do, it is going to lead to some displacement. So you're right. There's this thing about what we're experiencing now where AI is going to make our lives better, undeniably. AI is also going to take some people's livelihood.
It's very interesting when you say displacement. It also means that there could be some level of reskilling involved and replacement. But a lot of this is a theoretical construct for a lot of people. They worry that fine, we could reskill and get back into a new role. But we also see a situation, and I'll actually quote you, that you are seeing a situation where people are without jobs and jobs are without people.
That's right.
That's a very powerful statement that you made. How do you then reconcile it?
Well, it's going to be hard to reconcile because the reality is trillions of dollars are being poured into AI for good reason. We do want to be, for good or for bad, less reliant on human beings to do everything. And that's maybe a good thing because there's limitations. Machines can work around the clock. They don't have a 9 to 5 period with breaks and lunch. They don't need that. And so we do know that this is in the whole new world that I'm going to talk about. We will not just look at labor planning. We're going to look at work planning. And work will be done by machines and people as opposed to machines or people. And that's what we're going through right now. So we're trying to figure out what's going to be the balance. And what we're concerned about is people who are not willing to work with machines may find themselves without a job.
So when you say that this relationship is going to evolve, are there any success stories or examples which perhaps you would have seen at SHRM or with the global corporations that you work with?
Yeah, it's early. And the reason I pointed to 2022, the first day that most of us even heard of AI, although the people who've been doing this technology have been working on it for years and years, It's early. We haven't seen its direct impact on human beings. And so I'm actually loath to point to an example of where it's worked well, because it could be that we just don't have enough experience. This is a grand experiment. I say this about working remotely. Like we did it for the first time at scale 5 years ago, and we don't actually know everything about it yet. But I will say this, we're early on seeing instances where, for example, in human resources, I'll give you an exact example, where none of us, when we were involved in recruiting people, want to come into your office, into your mailbox on a Monday morning and see 500 resumes from people for one job. And as you know, number one, number two, number three resume you review critically. But by the time you get to number 100, it's all a blur. Every candidate is the same candidate. What we have now found is that we can use technology. AI will help us look for, review all of those candidates as if we had only seen them once and start to synthesize it. In other words, it helps us do our jobs more efficiently, better, frankly. It's not that AI is going to choose the candidate. AI and the other technologies are going to do some of the tedious work that human beings, frankly, weren't built to do and aren't interested in doing, so that we can ultimately find the best talent. So I think that's where AI is complementing HI to come up with a new process, and it's working.
And that's the whole new world, your favorite
That's
song
the
as
whole
well,
new world.
right?
Yes, that's right. This idea that we don't have to do it all. And in fact, I really like to, so people will talk about in the recruitment process, well, we're concerned about bias in hiring, and AI could lead to us, biasing against women or against Africans or name it. The reality is human beings are pretty darn biased themselves.
True.
And so the machine almost can't be worse, because I know that during an interview process, a machine doesn't see a pregnant woman. It questions whether or not she has the experiences and can do the work. A human being during the interview notices you're pregnant or notices you're young and might want to get pregnant. And so all of your biases come through. And so when I compare you to a young man, then maybe the guy is slightly better because of my own biases. That's the point, is this is where I think when we bring AI and HI together, we're going to make better decisions, and we're going to free up HR professionals and talent acquisition professionals to do strategic value-added work as opposed to the tedious work that none of us ever wanted to do anyway.
That's a good point. Work which is dull, difficult, and dangerous is getting automated globally. But one of the things that we see is that the ability to change at the human level is difficult, the pace of change. So it's easier for an enterprise to adopt new technology. You just do a software upgrade, right? But the software up here,
Yes.
It's difficult to upgrade that quickly.
Yes.
How do you work on that?
Well, it's a mindset shift, and that is part of the tension right now. Human beings always talk about change, but change is really hard. In fact, typically, the IO psychologist on our team will tell you that people only change if something's broken. If they perceive it as being okay, even if they know there's something better, they said if it's not broken, why fix it? The machine and this new technology has forced us to look at ourselves differently and see the world differently. It's literally this whole new world language. And it's tough right now. I got to tell you, human beings are saying it wasn't broken. Why fix it? I'll give you an example. I was at recently in Thailand, and I walked to the counter of a fast food restaurant. Won't name the restaurant, but you walked in. There were no human beings taking orders, period. 5 years ago, there would have been 8 or 9 staffers there taking orders. Now you order from a machine. Someone behind, they're still human beings, but there are more people now in the kitchen so that your food comes out faster. So the organization has taken some of those jobs that were on the front line, put them back in the back, and the machines have taken those toll. We literally know that it's going to make business better, and human beings will do higher value added work. But that represents change. And so if you're one of the people on the front line who's now being asked to take a different job, you're going to resist it because you thought everything was fine anyway.
But that, as you said, is been calculated. It's a huge impact on business. A $245 billion disruption for customer and tech experience sector. Now that's nearly everything, because tech is at the back end for everything, and for the rest is the customer experience.
Yes.
So we are talking about a multi-billion, if not a $1 trillion transition happening within months for businesses whose core is talent. And therefore, I notice a little bit of panic in the eyes of most of the business leaders,
That's
right?
an
So,
understatement.
which also means that the leadership has to change its thinking when they integrate and engage with technology.
Well, it's scary because we are literally flying blind. We don't know. The technology's too new. We don't have studies to show what's the impact of these decisions. You're making a decision. You're making huge investments, financial investments, and not a day goes by in the media where you don't hear question marks about, well, is this really just an AI bubble that's about to burst, right? We spent trillions of dollars into something that may not yield the results that we thought it would. I'm convinced that that's not accurate this time. I think it's legitimately something that will make us bigger. But what we've got to do, and you alluded to it, was that mindset shift. We've got to take human beings who typically will change over time. And we've now said in 2 or 3 years, the entire world changed. That's a lot for us to digest. It's hard for consumers to digest. It's hard for employees to digest. And the point that you just made is management, because there's huge risk associated with changing to something that you didn't think was broken.
And I think the pace is the challenge. But another interesting dimension is the demographic, the younger consumer, citizen, and professional. You referred to earlier about a vicious cycle. SHRM also talks about work, worker, workplace. So we see a situation where the workplace itself has transformed in the post-COVID world to the extent that in some organizations there is no workplace,
Right?
Because everybody is remote.
Remote.
Now that has a serious consequence, but we've seen some of the challenges because it has an impact on culture, etc. Johnny, but the next few years, in your view, what is the best way for business leaders to manage the new evolving workplace where technology is infused in every task that we do?
Right. We've got to, in terms of managing it, we've got to first own it. Many of us, we're likely in the same demographic. We learned a different way. We're not digital natives. We're not, like, we're aware of it and we're comfortable with technology, but we're not digital natives.
We're digital adopters.
That's right. We're adopters. Very well said. And so what we're struggling with now is this whole notion that the way that we see the world wasn't the way we were raised in that world. That has made it incredibly difficult. So half of the work that needs to be done is not in the young people. They're digital natives. It's in us and how we manage them. Just the question, you mentioned it, working remotely. Think about it. Pre-pandemic, that was a very, very small number of people. Very few jobs could you work truly remotely. And those people weren't considered real employees of sorts. They're not real. You come into the office.
He's a consultant.
He's a consultant. That's right. A gig worker, whatever that term means. But in 2020, all of a sudden, that turned on its head. Most of our office workers were then forced to work remotely. And we proved to ourselves something that none of us thought could happen, that the work could be done. Now, what we're questioning now is it optimal? So can it be done? Yes. But long-term sustainable, is it optimal, is the question. Our early data suggests to us that it's not. People, human beings, need to work with other human beings. This is the way they build, the way they innovate, the way they ideate. Young people need mentors. They need people they need to build relationships, to build out networks. They need to learn from other people and work on teams. So while it technically, we do know that you can work remotely, we're coming to conclude that hybrid of sorts is the answer, whether it's 3 days in the office and 2 or whatever it is. But this mixture, we do want to give people more time outside of the physical office, because we don't believe that you need to be in the office 5 days a week in the way you and I grew up. But by the same token, this idea that you can fully work remotely, which some of the younger people believe they can, is also not optimal.
Technology has changed skills and therefore tasks, and they're kind of impacting each other.
Yes.
That's a tangible. Okay, this skill is out and this skill is in, and I know what to get in.
That's right.
But culture is intangible. Right?
Yes.
Now, when you are a manager, you're an HR manager, you're a CEO, you're an investor,
yes, and
you want your company to succeed, and you may be in the tech sector, but you don't have a culture because there are no people sitting together. There's no shoulder to shoulder, connection. There is no in-person meeting to the extent that we used to have earlier. At SHRM, what is your advice to business leaders on managing this shifting culture which is being impacted by technology, but also business models.
Right. Being very intentional about culture. When you and I grew up, culture meant, sort of in the tech world, popcorn, free popcorn, drinks, and massages at work. It was
and water cooler talk.
Right. That water cooler talk. That was sort of culture 101 in the early culture 1.0, I should say. Fast forward, culture means something very different. And in some ways, it's back to the future. It's an explanation. How do things actually work around here? And it's hard to get your arms around how it works if you're not there. So what we are now trying to help managers do at SHRM is to operate in an environment with a lot of intentionality, which says you might not have 40 hours a week, 5 days a week to work with an employee, but you still have to be able to relate your culture, and you've got to extract the most out of your people. So we're going to use technology to help us do that. Little things like having your meetings. We require during these meetings, every camera must be on. No such thing as, not having the camera on during a meeting. It's less than ideal. We're not sitting across from each other, but at least I should be able to see you. And
there's a person on the other side.
There's someone on the other side. We're increasingly taking lunch over, literally. When we take lunches, people are having virtual lunches where you go out and get your meal, I get my meal, but we see each other eat. I remembered early on in the days in 2020, I would turn off my camera when I was going to eat. And now we've changed that now. We actually want to see you eat on camera. Little things that say we're going to try to replicate an in-person experience, a virtual experience. So that's what we're doing, is being very intentional about the culture and how we have to modify and build culture when people may not all be in the same physical place. Now, let me just say that. While that may sound profoundly new, we were already beginning to do that as the world flattened. As we were hiring and building our team now here in India. We have over 100 employees in India. And so we were going to get there anyway with or without technology. I've got to build a relationship with my Indian colleagues just as if they were sitting in Washington, D.C. with me. So early stage was, as we globalized and put people across the, we did it. Now technology, we actually have the technology now where I can see my colleague in India every day and build relationships. So very intentional cultural building is what leaders are being asked to do right now.
I'll come to India in a moment, but we have a situation where digital adopters are leading and managing digital natives.
That's
and
right.
there is a fundamental conflict over there,
Yes.
right? What advice do you give to leaders? Because leadership is not just at the CXO level, it's at every level. The moment you have two people working with you, you are in a leadership position, right? And therefore, the elements of conflicts also change, because one of the things I have noticed, Johnny, I'm sure you would have, that today a generation change is within 5 years, right? The mindset change that you were referring to is not between people who are 20 years apart, but maybe just 5 years apart.
That's right.
Now, again, every year, technology infuses new sets of ideas, creates new communities, new thought processes. How does then leadership work in this era?
Gosh, you want to talk about dynamic. Well, to your point, even within a generation, there's a distinct difference between the kids who graduated high school in 2019 and the kids who graduated high school in 2022. They literally had two different experiences. One group did not attend school in person in large parts of the world for that 3-year period, whereas the other group had the traditional experience. So you're absolutely right. It's not decades. It's literally sometimes within 2 to 3 years, different experiences, which, we challenge and say, the data says we now have 6 generations in the workplace at once, not 5, but 6, because Generation Alpha was born in 2010, and they're now 15 years old. They're working in retail establishments, in theme parks, et cetera. So we now have 6 generations in the workplace at once. And to your point, even within those generations, there are nuances. The pre-COVID babies, the post-COVID babies, the pre-AI babies versus the post. So there's a lot going on right now that we're trying to digest. What do I say about that? Multi-generational leadership management is the number one task facing leaders right now. The digital adopters like me and like you are struggling with digital natives because we don't quite understand, and we will never be able to understand how they process when they're raised in a world where you push a button. I was telling my daughter this, I have a 15-year-old, and I shared with her that I started my career at Blockbuster. Okay. And she thought, what? You had to leave your house to go get a video, stand in line, hope that there's no unlimited video. I said, no, if there were 50 of those videos and I was customer number 51, I didn't get it that day. Her mind can't conceive of that. But again, that's because the technology that she was born with is as many people as they want can watch a movie no matter where they are on the planet. Understanding that and being cognizant of that as a father leader within my own home means I have to be very thoughtful about how different the experience is.
It's funny that you see some of the kids where you show them a magazine
Right.
or a newspaper, they want to expand the photograph using, pinching their fingers.
That's right.
Which is a bit crazy,
funny.
right?
That's right.
But we are the generation, we've seen the rotary dial phones,
We've seen it
and
all.
then we can also do an internet call. So I'm going to close on the last few minutes in our conversation, Johnny, on the fact that 20 years ago,
Yes.
when you were on the board of SHRM, you had a very interesting decision to make as part of the board, India or China?
Yes.
Because as we were looking globally for your expansion. Now, that was a pivotal point for both the countries and US and for SHRM. So tell us the story on what are the decisions you took towards India and China then, and how is it playing out?
So interesting. And I remember 2005 very, very well. The next conversation started in 2004. And we realized that we were our TAM, total addressable market in the United States, SHRM was so large that there was nothing else to become. We couldn't grow much bigger. So we said the opportunities are outside of the United States. And the two obvious opportunities, just purely because of numbers, China and India. You were both, at that time, heading toward 1 billion, and you've now both exceeded 1 billion. So we knew this is where the population growth would be.
And the talent growth.
And the talent growth. If you're in the human resources business, these are the two. Different governments and different types of governments, I should say, and policies. You had one that was communist, you had one that was a democracy, and so we were trying to sort that. What do? We bet on both. Typical. You don't know which one is going to prove to be the right one. So we took a significant number of our dollars of our resources and we built a China presence, 2 offices, Shanghai and Beijing, and then we opened here in Delhi. And we began to expand. And over time, we closed our China business and expanded. And now India is the fastest growing part of all of SHRM.
So next few years, what is the strategy for SHRM in India? I know the APAC MENA head, Achal, is doing a great job, and 20 years of SHRM in India has been quite a pivotal moment for SHRM globally as well. But here, do you see SHRM becoming more a SHRM tech-oriented organization? Do you see more acquisitions happening here? What kind of growth are you planning for India in the next 5 to 10 years?
So we're in our second curve here. And you know all of the studies and the conversation around second curve. SHRM India has grown astronomically, organically. So now we are a significant business here. Before we see and we haven't seen a decline or a plateauing, we've decided we're now going to build in. So you're going to see inorganic growth in this part of the country. We're going to buy some things. You can build them or you can buy them. Or
so
you can
what kind of companies are you looking to acquire?
In the reskilling business. Reskilling, cross-skilling, upskilling. Skilling is the name of the day. And it's simply because of the evolution that we've talked about, change. The things that we know today, 5 years from now, many of those skills will be outdated and replaced. So we will now be lifelong learners, and SHRM has to get involved in that because industry needs us to do that. Having enough people, having 1 billion plus population doesn't do you any good if those people don't have the skills that industry needs. So we are going to play a significant and outsized role in reskilling, and that's probably where our biggest bet is. The thing, though, that we'll never lose sight on is we have to constantly upgrade HR. Because as the world changes, as jobs in the world of work changes, HR has to change. So we'll do 2 things. We're going to equip the HR profession in this country in ways that we've never done it before. That's our number one and primary task. And then broadly, we're going to help make sure that the skills that your industry needs are available. And that means taking human beings and constantly reskilling them.
India is also a place for talent pool for the world.
For the whole world.
So it's not just about India. What you're saying, that if you're going to invest in acquiring companies for skilling, in many ways you're also making an impact on the world. Is that how you see it?
That's exactly it. The notion that you have something that most of the world is envious of, that they're smart, they're young, entrepreneurial in spirit, all of that good stuff. And the world needs them. And I shared this today in my comments. Most of the world, the developed world, is old and getting older. And we stopped having children. In the United States, the U.S. birth rate is the lowest in over a century right now. So we're going to need to borrow and export talent from India. Right now, I know there's a whole question about, borders and this and that. But over the next couple of decades, you'll have the rarest of resources, and that is human beings who are skilled to do stuff. And the rest of the world is going to want to come to you, just as many of us rely on the Middle East right now for oil. We're going to have to come to you for human talent.
That's a great line. But technology is going to be the multiplier.
Absolutely. The enabler of it all. That's right. And you have a double advantage. You've got people, and your advancements in technology, just the sheer numbers of engineers that you produce and new engineering startups and initiatives that you do. Well, it's the perfect setup, right? You have volume, young, innovation at once, and technology is going to enable all of that. So that's part of the strategy. We're building in India because we think so goes India, so goes the rest of the world.
Johnny, thank you so much for talking to us. I could have had a much longer conversation on talent and technology, but for the moment, thanks so much for sharing your candid thoughts.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.